All right, well, the next big North American tournament belongs to college basketball. March is right around the corner, and our bracketology expert, Jerry Palm, has Indiana, Arkansas, UNC, Boise State sitting in the dreaded first four out. Meanwhile, last four in, three SEC teams sneaking in here. Texas, Oklahoma, and Georgia make the cut alongside Xavier. March 16th, Selection Sunday. As for those number one seeds, Auburn, Florida, Alabama, and Duke representing the ones currently. The SEC could have a baker's dozen make the tournament as a whole, but look at that. Three number one seeds at the moment for the Southeastern Conference. Our college basketball experts, Jerry Palm and Matt Norlander, are joining us now to set the stage for the weekend and who can improve their stock with some big games over the next couple of days. Jerry, I'll start with you. Tonight we've got ranked 14 Michigan State, number 12 Michigan. Who do you guys like in this battle for first place in the Big Ten?
Well, I like Michigan because they're at home. This is a pretty even matchup, an intense rivalry, in-state rivalry, two teams that generally don't like each other, and they're both playing well. I mean, Michigan's in first place. Michigan State's right behind them, half a game. So the winner of this game tonight will be in first place in the Big Ten and have a leg up trying to be the top seed in the conference tournament. But they're also playing for a seed in the NCAA tournament. Michigan's ahead there right now as well. And Michigan State maybe could pass them with a win tonight. So, yeah, they're battling for a lot in terms of seeding in the postseason, but also just in-state pride.
Yeah, I'm coming to you from Michigan's basketball facility, as you can see behind me here. Thanks to the staff here for letting me do this HQ hit in their film room. But I also spent time with Michigan State earlier in the week as well. This should be a tremendous game. Speaking of Tom Izzo, his expectation is just that this game is going to wind up being decided by one or two possessions on either side. They play wildly different styles. I think both of these programs are capable of making a deep run in the NCAA tournament. The big thing with Michigan State is it doesn't shoot the three-pointer well, and it doesn't shoot it often. So with that, largely almost certainly off the table, how will Michigan State be able to get points in this game? Can it get up and down the floor? Can it get second and third chance opportunities? Michigan is among the better passing teams in the country. It's got two bigs in Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf, two 7-footers that they start. No other program in the country starts and plays and uses two 7-footers the way that Michigan does. So a huge contrast. If you want a little history, this is the 8th time since Tom Izzo became coach of Michigan State that Michigan and Michigan State have played in the top 15 matchup. Both teams are ranked in the top 15. In those games, Tom Izzo's team is 5-2, but Tom Izzo's team is not at home tonight. That's the Wolverines.
Matt, boots on the ground there in Michigan. Love to see it. But let's move over to the SEC. Number 6 Tennessee is going to visit number 7 Texas A&M in a battle of potential 2 seeds, guys. The winner can stay at the top, but what happens to whoever loses this game, Jerry?
Well, I don't think much happens unless they get their doors blown off. If it's a really ugly game, then you might see more of an impact on the team that loses. But I think the loser in a competitive game is still going to be a 2 seed. But the winner might have a chance to move up if someone opens the door for them. A Florida loss. Duke is playing Illinois. Alabama has lost 2 in a row. If they could get a door opened up, the winner of this game has a chance to be a number 1 seed when Monday rolls around. And you're talking about 5 SEC teams at the top 6 spots of the bracket. So it's going to be pretty competitive for those number 1 seeds all the way through the rest of this season. And I won't be surprised if there are 3 number 1 seeds at the end as well for the SEC. It just may not be the 3 that are currently sitting there.
Tremendous game, 2 top 5 defenses. I think it's entirely possible the team that hits 65 points first wins in this one. Tennessee is number 1 in points per possession defense. A&M is number 5. A&M is not a good shooting team across the board. Not good from the foul line, not good from beyond the 3, and not even good from 2-point range for the most part there. Look for the wings to decide this. To me, it's Chaz Lanier on Tennessee's end, and then Wade Taylor the 4th, and what he can do alongside Jurek Phelps. This is a really awesome matchup. Both of these teams obviously have Final Four potential. Tennessee having to go and play this game on the road, you might think A&M could have the advantage. It's possible. I did pick this on the Eye on College Basketball episode Friday that I taped earlier today with Gary Parrish. I took I took Tennessee in that one, so I'll stick with it here on HQ. But I do think this game will be decided by one possession.
So we have a couple of these top 10 matchups this weekend. Iowa State, Houston, 8 versus 5 is another one. Jerry, for Houston, this could be a potential resume builder, a potential move into a #1 seed. But what else would have to happen for Houston this weekend for that to happen?
I don't know if Houston's resume is strong enough that adding a win over Iowa State is going to put them in play for a 1, especially because the two teams ahead of them are playing each other and one of them is going to win. So there's too much traffic, I think, for Houston to move up to the 1 line this weekend, but it's still in play further down the road, depending on what happens. All these SEC teams are, at least 4 of those 5 are going to take a loss in the conference tournament. So, but for Iowa State, it's a chance to move up. There are 3. They have a chance to move up to a 2 and put themselves, in play, maybe to fight for a 1 later on. So, yeah, I mean, these battles, that's 2 battles among teams in the top 10 of the bracket already this weekend. And you got to love that if you're a college basketball fan.
Jerry, the slate this weekend is awesome. We've been gifted a really, really good college basketball season, and we've had a run here, weekend over weekend over weekend, where there have been 4, 5, 6 gotta see it type of games. We get that again. This one is clearly in that bucket. And you hear Houston, Iowa State, you think, okay, maybe it's going to be like that Tennessee A&M game we just talked about. I mean, maybe, but keep this in mind. Iowa State's never been this good on offense under T.J. Otzelberger. Houston's never had this many good three-point shooters that are hitting above a 38% clip. So while I don't think either of the winning team's going to hit 80 in this one, I do think there's a chance that both teams cross the 70-point threshold unless they see each other and there's a familiarity with their jerseys and the coaching staffs, and they just revert to the type of game we would be accustomed to seeing, and it's a battle, the 62, 63 points. They're good on offense, though, and Iowa State riding a 4-game winning streak. It's had 77-plus points the past 4 times out. Amazing game. I think Houston is among the 4 or 5 best national title contenders on the board in general in the sport. I can't wait to see it. And regardless, this is the kind of game where I just want to watch it. And the winning team will have a really nice resume boost. For the losing team, it's something of you take a loss, you move on here. Houston has 1 loss since November 30th. 1. And Iowa State only has 1 loss with Milan Momcilovic in the roster. He's back and he's healthy again. So can't wait to lock in on this one on Saturday.
Matt, you're right about the schedule. I mean, last week we're talking about Alabama and Auburn, 1 and 2, and then here we are. We got 8 and 5 and all these other ranked matchups. Now you both mentioned something interesting, I think, throughout this segment about if the losses don't look terrible, not hurting a team. But Jerry, for a team like Georgia, who you have in that last four in category, do they have to beat Auburn, or do they have to just make it look good enough to stay in the conversation here?
I mean, they don't have to beat Auburn, but they're going to have to finish the season well. And, they've got a handful of games left. They're probably going to have to win 3 of them, so there's some cushion. But if you lose this one, now you've got to win most of the games that you have left. Maybe all but one of the games that you have left to feel like you have a chance entering the conference tournament, where maybe you could take a loss and still have a chance to be an at-large team. So there's a lot, and, the schedule's backloaded. All these teams are playing other, really good teams. Georgia, all these bubble teams in the SEC have got multiple games against teams at the top of the bracket, where if they lose all of them, you're going to struggle to have just a good enough record to even be considered for an at-large team. And that's the position that Georgia's in. Georgia, Texas, Arkansas have been kind of trading in and out. 2 of them in each bracket, but not always the same 2. In fact, I don't know that I've had the same two brackets in a row. Now Oklahoma's joined that party. Vanderbilt's on its way down there too. So we could really see a big pile of SEC teams, maybe as many as 5, fighting for what could be maybe 2 spots in the NCAA tournament in the end.
Yeah, it's a good subplot. There's been all this talk, and I'm responsible for some of it, about the SEC pushing to set the record with 12 bids. Might happen, but that group of 5 Jerry just mentioned, kind of a compelling race that's developing here. Georgia has to get it done at some point. I understand this is a very tough ask. Georgia's 2-10 in quad 1, and in the resume-based metrics Georgia right now ranks 59th in KPI, which is bad. That's like, you're 59, You shouldn't even be considered for an at-large resume. That being said, that's why the NCAA uses team sheets and discusses these things, because in the other two resume-based metrics, 43rd at wins above bubble, which just got added to the team sheets this season, and 46th in strength of record. That's still, for me, outside the comfort zone of getting them in the field, and I think a loss would be coming. They'd be on the outside looking in. They have more opportunities, but man, oh man, few teams have torpedoed their prospects over the past 2 months the way that Georgia has. The SEC is loaded. I get all that, but they have too much talent. They've got a future top 10 pick on the roster right now. Want to see what Mike White can do over the next 2 weeks, because he's got opportunities. And if this team doesn't get in, it's going to be pretty disappointing. And frankly, given how much they had returning as well, almost no excuse for not finding a way to break through in the SEC and get into the big dance.
All right, as competitive as the SEC is going to be, I imagine there's going to be some level of that with the Big Ten. And let's move to Indiana, who's on the bubble, hosting number 13 Purdue. The Hoosiers 6-9 in conference play. Jerry, what has to happen the rest of the way for them to join the list of big teams to likely make it? Is there enough juice left on their schedule to do it?
Is there enough juice left in the Hoosiers to do it? I mean, that's why they are where they are. You know, you can't count on consistent effort from Indiana game in and game out. Now they'll play hard against Purdue. You know, that's Purdue. No question. They'll play hard. But will they bring it every single game? Because they're going to need to. They're currently 15-11. 4 games above 500 is basically the historic minimum standard for getting an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. If you're below that, you're not going. So they've got to finish 3-2, and they've got to make the Big Ten tournament, of course, which I suspect they would. But the Big can beat Purdue at home. That's great, and they've still got 2 home games left, but they also have a West Coast trip. So there's not a lot of margin for error for Indiana. They need to be 5 games above 500 when they go to the conference tournament to really have a realistic shot of making the NCAA tournament. Obviously, beating Purdue would help, but they could beat Purdue and still give that away.
Yeah, I'll quickly on the Purdue side, then I'll close with what Palm just talked about with Indiana. Purdue's lost 3 in a row. This game, I understand it's Indiana, it's a rivalry, so we'll see. But Purdue has owned it as of late. Purdue gets the benefit of playing a slumping Indiana team. Now, Purdue's got to go on the road and do it. So it's a road environment. We'll see. I still like I like Jerry's Boilermakers to be a team that wins a couple of games in March, almost regardless of seed, whether Purdue winds up as a 4, 5, or 6, wherever it winds up being. I do think Matt Painter with Braden Smith, who's been one of the best players in the country, is going to be okay. Indiana, man, how is this going to play out? You got Purdue, then you're home to Penn State, need to win that. At Washington, at Oregon, home to Ohio State. 3-2 at minimum, and I would highly endorse and suggest you win at least 1 game in the Big Ten tournament. And frankly, that might not even mean anything. It might be 2 there. It's a fascinating situation because Mike Woodson's on his way out. There's a coaching search that's starting to develop behind the scenes, and this is a program that has the guys theoretically to pick off a lot of teams on a given night, but there just hasn't been any kind of consistency. This will be an intriguing one. It's a big rivalry game, but I think that Purdue is going to wind up going in and getting a win on Sunday. All
right, college basketball, the floor is yours this weekend. What a crazy setup of schedules we've got coming up here. Jerry, Matt, thank you so much. Reminder, that Purdue-Indiana game can be seen on CBS Sunday at 1:30. You can also stream it on Paramount Plus. Reminder, check out our official college basketball podcast, Eye on College Basketball, with Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish. They have you covered 3 times per week as we get ready for all the craziness that March Madness has to come. Use that QR code to listen. Still to come, on the eve of the NFL Combine, we're taking a look at needs across the league. What do the Vikings need to do about quarterback Sam Darnold, who's coming off a career year? John Breach and Will Brinson jump on HQ next.